We're sitting right now with Samantha Shannon. Her book is called The Bone Season. It's a beautiful cover, a big book release. You really know how to do debut in a big way.
Thanks.
Welcome to Bibliostar.
Thank you so much.
Your book is being released simultaneously in a number of different countries. Mm-hmm. You have a film deal with Andy Serkis's Imaginarium. Mm-hmm. You've been called the next J.K. Rowling, which are big shoes to fill. I see you wincing when I say that, but it's been said. What are your thoughts about, first of all, this massive beginning to your writing career?
I mean, it's been very overwhelming, and it's been fantastic as well, obviously. I mean, I didn't expect it to be this big. I mean, I did wince a little at the next J.K. Rowling thing, because obviously it does feel like big shoes to fill, so it has been quite nerve-wracking in that way. But I'm really excited, and I'm really pleased that there's been so much early interest in the book.
Well, there's 7 books in the series, so there are more similarities, obviously. Did you always know that you were going to have that many books in the series?
I knew that it wouldn't fit into one book, and the number 7 is really important in the book. So I did want there to be 7 in an ideal world, but I didn't know if Bloomsbury were going to be open to the idea of 7 books. So I kind of I knew there was going to be more, but I didn't want to put an exact number on it until they said 7 is fine. Let's go ahead with 7.
When did you begin the process of constructing this story in your own mind as a writer?
I mean, it went through several different stages, really, of designing the world. But when it really triggered for me was when I worked in London as a literary agent's assistant. And it's in a little area in London called Seven Dials, which is a road junction where 7 streets come together. And to me, that setting was so strong that it just gave me this, I kind of just had this sudden idea for a setting, and that got me really excited. And kind of all just built from the setting, really, I would say. It just all kind of built around it, and I was imagining all the things the protagonist might be seeing, and just kind of built from there, I guess.
Maybe first you could just tell us a little bit about the story structure to begin for readers who are going to be new to this for the first time.
I mean, it's basically set in London in 2059, and it's in a world where clairvoyants exist, and they are a known minority, and they've been pretty much outlawed by Scion, who are the ruling government, and they're being persecuted and arrested and taken away, and no one really knows where they're going. And in that world, you've got my protagonist, Paige, who she's a particularly rare kind of dreamwalker, rare kind of clairvoyant called a dreamwalker. And she works in the crime syndicate of London, and she's captured by Scion forces and taken to this kind of prison colony. And she discovers that the government's being controlled by this race of supernatural creatures. So it's kind of got several layers to the story.
So to go from being a literary agent's assistant to now being on this sort of global tour of sorts to unveil your new book and this story to a bunch of people is a very big switch.
Yeah.
Did you have any idea that it was going to be this big when you started to go? When did you first get the sense that you were building something that had a lot of buzz?
I mean, when I was writing it, when I kind of came up with the idea of the Clairvoyant Society, I do remember saying to my mum, I think I've got something quite good here. And I remember thinking that, and I did have so much fun writing the world, and I was enjoying it a lot. And I really hope that it would reach out to other people and that they would enjoy it too. I mean, I had no idea it was going to be this big, though. I mean, I was very, very surprised when the reaction was that good from Bloomsbury. I mean, I'm thrilled, obviously, but it was a bit of a surprise.
I'm curious about that feeling when you know you have something good. I'm always interested in when a writer's onto something and they're not just noodling anymore, but they start to lock down and they get that excited feeling like, I have it.
Yeah.
What is that feeling to you? What does it feel like to you? And how does it affect your writing when you know you're sort of on a trail?
I mean, it makes writing a lot more fun. I mean, I did have one novel I wrote when I was a bit younger that didn't go anywhere. And that novel, it got to the point where I just became really obsessed with the idea of getting it published, but I wasn't really enjoying it so much anymore. I was just kind of writing it out of habit. Whereas with The Bone Season, I kind of knew I was onto something that I personally really loved when I enjoyed every single writing session. I was really excited by the world building, and I was excited by the character and the story. And I think it's just kind of that sense of rightness and the sense that you're enjoying it a lot and that you've engaged with it.
And you could tell the difference when you're in the middle of this.
No, absolutely. I mean, for me, the important thing was I switched to first person. I mean, previously I'd always written in third person, and when I switched to first, I suddenly got this, I just connected with the character in a way I never had before, because I was able to speak in her voice. and that made such a massive difference to the writing process.
You said earlier when you knew you were sort of on the right path, you told your mom that you think you have something. Were you living at home then? I mean,
Yeah.
What was your young writing life like?
I still live with my parents now. I've only just graduated, but I've started writing novels when I was about 15, and I've just been writing them ever since. Really, I mean, The Bone Season I wrote when I was at college, so that wasn't written at home. My first novel was written pretty much just at home after school and stuff. So yeah, I've always been writing.
Were there others around you that were want to be writers, or were you one of those people who were just locked in on the idea of being a writer?
Yeah, I mean, I knew as soon as I started writing my first novel, I knew this was something I wanted to do, and I felt I could do. And when my first novel failed, it was a massive like blow to me, because I was sending it to agents and they were all just saying no, and it was a very kind of dark period of my life after that. But it was just kind of having the courage to use the first person voice and step out of my comfort zone. So yeah, that was what made the difference, I guess.
So how do you think that first book failing affected the rest of your writing life? I mean, do you see it differently when you look back on it now and the importance of that step? And what would have happened if somebody did publish that book,
I would have been horrified, because it was a really, really bad book. Now when I look back on it, I can completely see why agents wouldn't take it. It was very clunky. It was very kind of, it was just too kind of like sentimental. There wasn't really enough plot to it. It was kind of like a Twilight knockoff, really, I thought. But yeah, I'm glad I did write it, because if I hadn't written it, I might not have written The Bone Season. And I think it's like it was an important stepping stone. And I did kind of like, I got a couple of early ideas for The Bone Season out of it. And I had one of my characters was actually in the first novel, and I kind of moved him over to The Bone Season. So yeah, I think it was definitely something that had to happen.
In homage to your first book, a character makes the jump into the new one. That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
One of the things when I think about, I'm sorry to do this to you, but when I think about the J.K. Rowling thing, she actually, you could see her writing improve as she went through the 7 books. I mean, she really came of age as a writer in that series.
Yeah.
You're going to improve as you write these 7 books.
I hope
You're
so.
going to think of that first book as the beginning, and as you get 7 books, your craft is going to continue to be honed.
Yeah.
What do you think about, as you're looking through the series, about how this first book might feel already as you're looking back upon it?
It's a dark series overall, so I don't think thematically it will be that different from the rest of it. But I think, I already look back on it now, and I'm like, there are things that I would change about it if I could write it again. So I imagine by the time I get to book 7, I'll be like, oh my gosh, The Bone Season, what was I doing? I imagine I'll look back on it, and I think I'm hoping that my style will develop and improve over time. So I imagine I will look back on it and cringe a little bit, maybe. I mean, I'm pleased with it as it is now, but I hope I'll get better and like come into my own style.
You blog, you have a website, I think a Tumblr site. You're out there communicating with fans already, and you were before the book came out.
Yeah.
How have you been cultivating your fan base even before you have a book out?
I do have my blog, which I thought there was a really unique opportunity with my blog that I could literally track the process right from the beginning to publication. So
the blog is called
A Book from the Beginning,
right,
and I thought that was an appropriate title. And it's been really, really fun actually to talk about each stage of the publishing process and like to tell people what it's really like, because there's so many like myths surrounding the publishing process, myths surrounding editing and agents, and it's good to kind of like tell people my experience and hear about their experiences and their opinions. So I've really, really enjoyed that. It's been great fun. And then obviously I'm quite active on Twitter, which has also been really exciting. I've been able to meet so many people, and I just think that it's great for authors nowadays that get the chance to kind of break down the wall between the reader and author. So it's really great. I've really enjoyed myself.
Well, the other big thing is that there's already been option for a movie. Andy Serkis has got this great new company.
Yeah.
Animal Farm is one of the movies they're doing, and now yours.
Yeah.
Have you been in touch with them? Are they actually thinking about making this movie, or where are they in the process?
Well, in terms of the process, movies have to be greenlit, and also they have to be funded by studios. So we're still very early in the process, and we're still at kind of an early stage. Like I wouldn't like we don't know exactly what's happening at the moment. We've been putting together like a pitch document, and like Imaginarium have been really good in like asking me how I would see the film visually and my ideas for it. So they're kind of just still at that stage where we're kind of like getting each other's opinions and putting together what we think it would look like. So it's really exciting to be able to view the book from that kind of filmic angle.
Well, you're savvy enough to understand what a film adaptation might mean. You look at, we mentioned Twilight, we talked about Harry Potter, and obviously Hunger Games series. In the Twilight series, I worked with a lot of Twilight blogs in my past, and what was interesting is that it was all about the book on the blogs.
Yeah.
And then it became those blogs that were once big fans of Stephenie Meyer and the book started talking about Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart mostly.
Yeah.
And my question to you is, there's a point when a movie is made, if this happens, and I recognize this is premature, but assuming this happens, where that becomes part of a memory for a person who comes in contact with your world.
Right, okay.
And you share that with the film to some degree as the author and the creator. What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, I was very lucky with the film that Andy Serkis and Jonathan Cavendish, who own the studio, said to me that I could keep consultation rights. So I will be able to, I'm not intending to force myself on every aspect of the film, because to me the beauty of film adaptations is that they're a different interpretation by a different artist. But it was very comforting to know that I can say if I don't like something, and I can be involved in the process. So I do feel that it won't be quite as out of my hands as it might be for some other authors who let the book go completely into the hands of film studios. But yeah, I do appreciate that when the film is made, there is like a whole different angle, and but I don't think that's any kind of it's not bad for the author. It's just a new way of looking at it, and it's really exciting, I think.
So you're going to be talking about this series for a number of years now. This is the beginning of a journey for you.
Yeah.
Do you see other books that you might be interested in, or is your focus for the next 10 years or however long this process will take all 100% on the Bone season?
I mean, I'm very wrapped up in the world of the Bone season, and I'm very emotionally invested in the characters, so I think it will be quite difficult for me to write anything else while I'm writing it. I do have one idea for a short novel. I won't tell you what it is because it might not happen. I do have that in the back of my head, but at the moment I'm very much focused on this series.
Well, I'm very excited about it, as are a number of others, obviously, and the breadth and scope of it is very huge and exciting as well.
Oh, thank you.
And I can't thank you enough for stopping by to talk about it. Congratulations.
Thank you for having me.
Great to meet you.